To race once again here at the Suzuka circuit for the first time in a good number of seasons, and this time the Japanese Super Formula Lights return to home turf. Welcome to the Beer League and welcome to Green Flight TV. My name is Nolan Rempel alongside Acinni. We bring you all of racing action from start to finish here on this fantastic Wednesday afternoon. Fen, 2 races to go before this championship draws to a close, and it is going to be a good one here this afternoon.
That it certainly is. It is going to be a fantastic battle to help set us up for the finale next Wednesday. I think both will be some tight battles up and down the field as people scramble for those final spots on the championship podium.
Still a good number of spots up for grabs here this season. Let's take a look at those official point standings entering racing action here this afternoon. Right now, Giovanni Armano taking over top of the boards, but it is still a dead heat between he and Henry Moore, separated by just a single point at the top of the scoring pylons here this afternoon. So all of this is going to make it quite the ride for Morse to catch up, and this race I think is a guarantee to go down to the final race.
I would have to imagine it goes down to the final race, and I think there are points and spots up for grabs all the way down the order. Looking at Alexander Buehler, Tyler Augustino, only a 1 point between them as well for 6th and 7th. The team championships, however, look a little bit more spread out, but not undoable. I think it's also going to go down to the final round.
At least for the overall championship, it sure will, right? Hale Staten jumping up another 2 positions, punching their way on to the podium, and now sitting only about, 50 points or so off of Super Serious Racing. That is a gap that can be made up within 2 weeks, so drivers have a lot ahead of them this afternoon. Hero Team 6, big losers last week, dropping down from 2nd all the way down to 5th. A devastating run for them, and with us having just over 2.5 kegs of beer down here this season so far. There's still a lot yet to cover here throughout the course of this race, and racing action, it's getting set to kick off, isn't it? And right now it is kicking off with qualifying out there on the racetrack right now, as drivers like Kyle Blevins are going around trying to put down times.
That they certainly are. Outlaps complete. They're getting through their first flyers now, I believe, as they come across out of what would be, I believe, that is spoon curve on the backstretch for the famous 300R.
Several drivers still trying to get a lap in here this afternoon. Let's ride on board here with Justin Hall. He will take you for a lap, there's Justin Hall. He'll take you for a lap here around the Suzuka circuit here, a racetrack synonymous with Japanese Formula Racing and the host of the Japanese Grand Prix for a good many years. He'll start the lap down the front straightaway, firing down towards that ever-famed turn 1 and the S's that follows.
Yeah, turn number 1 here, a fantastic off tempo for what you just experienced with that. It's really a light first numbered curve followed by a slightly heavier braking zone. S-curves in these cars, really just a lot of playing with the throttle modulation. A tiny bit of brake on occasion to get that rotation down and solid, but then as soon as that gets done, you're back on the power throughout those S-curves into Dunlop now, out of turn number 7 and into Degner 1 and 2. I believe that'll be coming up here in just a moment. The pair of right-handers, fast and furious with the Super Formula Lights. Plenty of... But you got to be careful of those curbing on the exits. It rained before the start of the session, and those curbs are not dry yet.
It kind of got hung up on not only the lifted curves of the Astrodome as well, then had to avoid Kyle Blevins, who had spun just off the road. Out of the hairpin, one of the slowest corners on the racetrack through 200R, passes by the chicane for the motorcycle layout, and now the approach to the multi-apex left-hander of Spoon Curve. You're going to arc it in, right? Hit this first apex right about there. Drift all the way out to the right. Then turn right back in. Got to get a good launch down this straightaway. It is one of the longest straightaways on the racetrack. In fact, it is the second longest straight on the racetrack and marks the start of the lap for the East Circuit here, and now 130R. By far the most famous corner that Suzuka has to offer. In Formula cars, completely flat out, even in Formula 1 machinery, definitely so in Super Formula Lights. Then hard on the brakes of the Casio Triangle, one of the hardest braking zones of the entire racetrack, out of the last curve and out of the triangle, and across the start-finish line, which comes up relatively quickly on you, rather than going all the way down to the grid at the far end of the racetrack. That is a lap around the Suzuka circuit.
These lap times, they're starting to roll in, still floating about a little under 2 minutes. So it's a long lap at Suzuka. One of my, I think, personal favorites for especially Formula machinery of all kinds, especially Super Formula lights. It feels right at home, which makes sense given how frequently Super Formula of all categories end up at Suzuka over the course of a year.
Now, right now, drivers are having a pretty good run of things here as they look to try to make up an effort here. We'll take a look at, of course, the current laps that drivers have got on the boards. There's Justin Ricci right now, only good enough for 21st on the boards. One driver jumping up to the point, though, Jason Lee, can go up into the top 10 relatively early in his qualifying session. So the DuPont number 8 showing some good pace. Chris Bright, meanwhile, see what he can do as he's into the Casio Triangle for the first time.
This is going to be his first flyer. We'll see where he slots into the 23 drivers that currently have a posted lap time. And I get the feeling it's going to be a solid one.
Sure was.
3,
Make
1,
that
9. It's going to put him in 5th, right?
Yeah, 5th now. It was initially 4th. Then Sebastian Close jumped him, which puts Bright into 5th. He did jump Ron Wolf, who had just gone up to 4th, and then immediately got put back down 2 spots into the 6th place spot. Right now, isn't any surprise, right? Alex Crawford leading the way. Head of the timing charts. I don't think that anybody is very surprised to see that at the top. And in fact, I'm almost surprised that he doesn't have more than the near 0.4 of a second gap that he has underhand right now. Here comes Erik Ronenberg out of on the corner. Oh, gets a big caught on the AstroTurf. Is that going to hamper the lap enough to falter across the line? Great improvement, Ronenberg for the lap holes. Justin Hall goes up to 3rd. And Ronenberg not going to improve. The lap didn't count.
Yeah, it did not qualify him as a good lap there, so we'll see what he brings back around in about just under 2 minutes. Darren Bai getting a lap done and dusted, pumping himself up into 4th and bringing that order. And I'm excited to see that gap that we had between Kyle Blevins and Justin Hall, as well as the rest of the line group there, slowly coming down to the 100th and 10th. Aaron Thacker dethroning Alex Crawford for the top of the timing tower.
Not by much, though, only by 10,000ths of a second. So Alex Crawford will no doubt be pushing to try and see if he can take a little bit more out of the chunk here this afternoon. There you see Scott Fleming picking up some water on the right-hand side of the racetrack, trying to dry off that racing line just a little bit more. It is still a little bit damp right around the curving, so some drivers are trying to push those margins in order to try and push some of that water away. But meanwhile, Fleming making his way up the hill towards 130R.
See how he improves. His first lap 154. I get the feeling based on the amount of progress he's made, it's going to end up somewhere in the 153s, but we'll have to see how he executes his final chicane. Comes around the final start-finish line. You want to hug it, ideally as close as you can to really maximize the time, but 153.206 is going to definitely get him up in the order up to 7th.
Good run there for Scott Fleming as he puts himself up a good distance. Henry Lieberman, meanwhile, will jump up to 15th. Kyle Smith has attempted a couple of laps already, although he has not been all too successful on either of them. He is on his 3rd attempt now and still has not managed to put his number 549 up onto the board. So Kyle Smith, one driver that is looking for more. Erik Ronenberg jumps up to 8th.
Yeah, good run from Ronenberg there. Only a handful of drivers now haven't set a lap time in. One that interests me, I'm excited to see, is where both Kyle Smith as well as Austin Tucker find themselves in the pecking order of these 34 drivers we have out that have registered for the track, I should say, at least, most of which are out doing laps at the moment.
Alexander Bueller goes up to 3rd. While Tucker's in 130R, Crawford going to retake pole position at the head of the field. Takes it by about a 10th and a half. Good effort there for Ronenberg as he'll come across the line. Meanwhile, other drivers making their way on through. We were watching Austin Tucker as he was trying to get a time on the boards. Is that 153, 127 enough to put him up? Yes, it is. He is up to 8th as he gets his first lap in.
He does, as well as Kyle Smith posts his first lap time. And you can see the parts of that car where he has said that that is good enough for him for the moment. And he has parked it outside of turn number 1.
Right here is Carson Catlin. He's got Greg Beckman just in front of him. Greg Beckman across the line goes 154. That should be enough to improve, but it would have been had he actually had the lap count. Carson Catlin will improve up to 22nd, but still not ideal. He will need a little bit more if he wants to see any kind of real improvement. Ronenberg trying again into the Casio Triangle.
Ronenberg into the 153s. I think ideally on that optimal line, it puts him in the 152s. Let's see how he handles out this last couple seconds of the lap. And if he can break that barrier, it looks like it's going to be possible.
152 if it counts. It didn't. He will remain in 10th. Jake Kasich right now is out on a tear. Jason Lee making his way into the last couple of corners. And he is going to miss the mark by a long shot. So no dice for Jason Lee. And that takes us back to fights elsewhere in the qualifying order.
The rest of these drivers trying to find that edge, that 100th or 3 that they need to move up the order, or a 10th in some cases, but basically from Alexander Bueller on back, separated by maybe a 10th, maybe a couple tenths, a few hundredths here and there. So really a lot of opportunity for these drivers to even improve a single sector. They might bump themselves up 1 or 2 positions if they're anywhere from P3 on down.
Crawford extends his lead at the top of the timing charts by almost half a second now. He is up. Ron Wolf going to go up to 9th, and Jake Kasich will improve as you ride on board with him. He has now jumped up to the 4th place spot. Here comes Scott Fleming making his way through the last series of corners and gearing up for the start-finish line. Could be close to a 152. It is a 152. Good run for Fleming. That gets him into 6th.
That it does. I think that's going to be where we'll see him, unless he gets that last couple tenths there. Sebastian Close also looking to get himself back into those top 5 that we saw him in earlier. But with only a 10th improvement, that does jump him up to 10th.
Well, he gets into the top 10 at least, right? It's a good consolation prize, all things considered. But yeah, if you want to get into the top 5, you need to be punching in a 152.777 or better right now. That is what Darren Bai right now runs in the number 5 spot. Emmett Campbell, 150, 1, 2, and he's going to miss the mark. He will improve. Could that be a top 10 time? It will not. He remains 14th.
Closes down that gap to Chris Bright, who's in 13th, but he has to find another about 800ths. Ben William gets out of Spoon Curve in that fantastic double apex. I think he's also on the train to improve as it currently stands, coming through 130R.
Making his way on around is Ben Williams. As Williams will once again try to lock in a time here. Might miss out on the 153 mark the way he's running. Coming out the final corner, he will get into the 153s. That's almost a whole second of improvement.
Nice.
And that will jump him up to 16th.
That it certainly will. A great number of spots he's made up in the process. Jason Lee, Brooks Clayton also setting their personal bests this most recent time by. Justin Hall, I think, also on track to improve and break into the 152s if he is lucky coming out of the final corner.
Boy, missing out by just 100th of a second on improving that time.
That is heartbreaking. It at least shows that you can be consistent at the lap you set earlier, but frustrating when you're trying to find that last 10 or 2.
Not a lot of time left in qualifying. Lap times here almost 2 minutes worth, and we got less than 5 minutes to go. So realistically, only about another 2 laps at most in these drivers before they are going to be forced to come down from pit road. So it is now crunch time in the session. You can no longer afford to just hang around and wait for it to come to you.
Certainly not that. I think many of these drivers are waiting around. For those that are on track, they're looking to, clambering for those final couple tenths here. Matthew Dupuis, one of those drivers who is looking to see what he can improve as he comes across the line. A couple hundreds ain't bad.
19th to 18th, jumps up 1 row, so not terrible. An improvement is still an improvement, even if it is only a minor one. Not seeing many other drivers on track right now that are looking to extend their times. Austin Tucker, I don't think will be anywhere near his current best time, as he is going to miss out on the mark by quite a bit here. He will be starting, though, his final triple round, so trying to just get a good warm-up run to it. And, well, how about that? He actually punches in a 152, and that jumps him up to third. All right, making me eat my words.
Yeah, just a little bit. I was a little curious. I was like, that looks like he's actually doing a pretty well improvement, but I'm glad he proved it instead of just me something I was thinking in the back of my head. Ron Wolf getting up to the 153.0 as his fastest, most recent time by. Final improvements from a couple drivers. I think we'll have to see where all those drivers that are out on their last flyer as we get into that 3-minute marker over the course of the next few minutes where they solidify their final spots. I think most of the grid has started to pull in and call it a day for qualifying.
You got a whole sprint race and you got a whole main event still yet to come up as well, right? No points awarded here in qualifying, so you may as well make the ground that you can here and then just set yourself up nicely for the sprint race. No improvement from Todd Madole. Aaron Thacker will be able to get around one more time as we wait for these final couple of times to trickle on in.
Thacker currently in second by a pretty hefty margin. Kyle Blevins looking to improve that time. Or, excuse me.
Not even close. He's setting up an out. Yeah, he's setting up an out.
Yeah, I was saying, setting up his final flyer right now.
Aaron Thacker showing to be showing small signs of improvement here as Thacker is going to come into the Casio triangle.
Now he exits his final corner.
Coming home to the line. Not an improvement though. Half a second down at the end of the day. Was looking good, but just lost into the back portion.
Yeah, I think somewhere in the chicane there was definitely a couple tenths lost as he went bumping over that inside curbing.
Oh, and Tom Badol is going to spin it on what was a good lap, so he will not be seeing any improvements. Chris Bright jumping up to 9th, though, as he gets in a lap right at the buzzer. I think that was kind of all the drivers that were actually on a flying lap. That might be your qualifying order right there.
I think Kyle Blevins might upset it. I know he just set out for his flyer right before the timer ticked down to that 2-minute marker, so he might throw a wrench in there. Ron Wolf potentially. I would say I think he just finished his final lap as well. So I think Kyle Blevins' last one, currently still sitting on the flyer to improve.
Kyle Blevins swinging through the Casio triangle, and he is not going to make it. He's going to spin it. I think he got invalidated when he ran out wide there, and he figured, well, may as well try pit entry, and it didn't go his way.
Well, I think he also just hit that point of, well, there's no point to finishing the lap when it's invalidated, so.
Well, with that, qualifying going to draw to a close here this afternoon, and we are going to take a rundown of what your official starting grid looks like as we get set to go racing for the first time here this afternoon for the Suzuka circuit. Starting on pole position this afternoon, it's going to be Alex Crawford alongside Aaron Thacker. From there, row number 2 holds Austin Tucker and Alexander Bueller. Row number 3, it's Jake Kasich alongside Scott Fleming. Row 4, we've got Darren Bai and Kyle Blevins. Row number 5, rounding out the top 10, it's Chris Bright and Ron Wolf. And then the transfer spots headed up by Justin Hall and Sebastian Close. From there, it's Eric Ronenberg, Chris Flams, Evan Campbell, Henry Lieberman, Ben Williams, Tyler Carlton, Matthew Dupuis, Todd Badol, Jason Lee, Corey Barrett, Shane Cameron, Brooks Clayton, Carson Catlin, Ryan Murphy, Ryan Verhulst, Greg Beckman, Gabriel Gonzalez, Kyle Smith, Justin Brissy, Giovanni Romano, Tyler Arcino, and Adam Joseph Mailhot, all at the tail end of the field. 34 cars gearing up and ready to roll.
I think it'll be a fun but potentially stressful 15 minutes of this heat race. I'm excited to see where they go as they are getting ready to go racing here in just a moment, and who gets into those transfer spots.
Waiting on the last couple of cars to run up here before we can get this show properly on the road here this afternoon. But there is the field for the most part, already sizing each other up. Everyone eager to get a run going here down into the opening corner. We'll see, right? I mean, this one of those races that could go either way. The last several sprint races have all been chaos incarnate. Will it be a similar story here this afternoon? Still waiting on a couple more.
I don't think it will be. I think people will hopefully be a little more responsible with only 2 races left in the season to get points in, but I could be wrong.
Well, the some cars not taken to the grid, most notably Justin Hall is absent. The rest of the field waiting patiently. Lights are out, and it's time to go racing as we take off here from the Suzuka circuit this afternoon. A mad scramble from Alex Coffin as he makes that drive deep into turn number 1 here this afternoon for the first time today. And so far, looking so good through turn 1, and now we are into the snake.
A set of S's that are hard to navigate too wide, so drivers are going to have to figure out how to get through there unscathed, but most seem to be doing just fine and getting through there with no issues.
A couple of cars taking some off-track excursions, but nothing too much to note about. We do have one spin at the back. Ryan Murphy has been sent off into the gravel trap. He alongside Justin Brissy have both gone around. Meanwhile, into the Degners already is Alex Coffin and Co. Some drivers still going side with side contact, and off the road going to go Erik Ronenberg. Shunted out wide here in this one, and going to be dropped all the way to the rear. We got one car bouncing into the sand trap and almost up and over.
Thankfully, landed on the wheels. Jason Lee as well as Corey Barrett, and I believe Shane Cameron also wrapped up in that one, but immediately after that, come out of the hairpin, Ben Williams.
Yeah. Yet more drivers having some of those issues, but overall, for the most part, a relatively clean run of things. So looking like this field has started to gradually more and more kind of figure out how these races come together. And I think we saw a lot of progress there, right, compared to how the last several weeks went. I mean, that could have been even worse, but now drivers did a pretty good job once they got things sorted to keep it underneath them.
That they did. They were, I would say, also fantastic of the racecraft. Driving too wide through the S's, always a tough feat depending on the type of car you have. Thankfully, with the amount of downforce these cars generate, you can go too wide without too much issue. And some tin top or GT machinery, it gets a little more sketchy, but
bit of double file going on here into turn number 1. Ron Wolf going to take to the inside of Kyle Blevins and slip right around him. Oh, contact and off the road they both go. Cars both going to get spun around. Blevins keeps it mostly straight. It was Ron Wolf that went for the big slide. Rejoins on the racetrack right in front of Giovanni Romano, and well, that'll be game, set, match for him for now. The battle for the top 3 remains. Let's take a look at what happened here on lap number 1 at the second Degner. It started with Erik Ronenberg. He got hip checked and then got pretty much sent off into the shadow realm, and then entering the second Degner. Right there, you saw the number 8 kind of get punched sideways, and about a 5-6 car pileup into the second Degner. Jay Kasich has gone around from the race lead. He is all the way down to 12.
He had a bit of a spin there, I think, just coming through Degners. The same as we saw earlier. That was on the exit of Degner 2.
There's a couple of cars that have gone off here. So there is a story, I think, to why we have 3 cars off at the same corner.
I think it might be the fact that the curbing is still not dry.
You reckon?
I think it might be part of it. I'm not sure it's all of it, but
AC Kasich off the road, and right behind There's Brooks' plates going off, and then this completely separate incident. So, in actuality, 3 or 4 different crashes developing all simultaneously. Take a look at Austin Tucker. He fights it out with Alexander Buehler for third.
They're having a tight battle. They had pretty close pace in the qualifying, so it'll be interesting to see who has the consistency there.
Agostino, meanwhile, has gone around. This was at 130R, a very, very high speed point of the racetrack, and we may very well have just seen Agostino go hard to the wall. He got turned from behind. Oh my goodness! Gabriel Gonzalez may have rolled it, coming down the straightaway towards the Casio Triangle.
He got a little spun around there. I think he had too much turning input on top of that. Gabriel has the look here. You see it. You see that little tip there. And then he does wobble incredibly. Keeps that car planted, goes the right direction, and just rolls on with it.
Lucky for Gabriel Gonzalez there. Meanwhile, Tyler Agostino now tucks in behind Jason Lee, trying to have a run going. Kyle Blevins off the road again, although that looks like he just skated out wide, courtesy of some of that damp curbing. Battle for third. Still remains a tight one between Tucker and Alexander Buehler, but a lot of, actually, I think it's worth noting, right? A surprising amount of separation this early on into a sprint race.
I'm in some ways surprised, some ways not surprised. The separation, you see some of them go too wide through a lot of the S's or spoon curve as well as turn number 1. All of that will cause them to slow down because the inside line that will eventually drift out can't do it, and the outside line has to be more cognizant of losing speed, and in the process they end up just kind of creating these gaps as these two kind of fight it out here and there between the other drivers that are further ahead or further behind them.
A look. Kyle Smith trying to attack Justin Hall, squeeze him into the right-hand side, entering 130R. Hall going to pull around the long way and re-secure the spot into the Casio Triangle. Once again towards the front. Still have Buehler looking to fend off Tucker from behind. Tucker has been a dog with a bone, not willing to let this podium position go in the 15-minute sprint races. We start to already near the halfway point in this race.
Yeah, you got to think these laps are long. We're only on, I believe, lap number 4 at the moment. Or lap number 5, excuse me.
It's 4.
Oh, 2.
Yeah, the first time.
Okay, well, either way, long laps. So while we've only done 4 laps, we are 8 minutes in, and we are going to be going through further. So it's just got to feel shorter, I feel like, than some of the other tracks that have shorter lap times for these cars. And it's kind of the way you feel it, like especially if you go to the extreme end of that, as I believe that we saw Henry Lieberman just jump to pits there.
Oh boy.
I think he had an issue.
And behind him, Kyle Smith has just got around as well, with Carson Catlin having gotten involved in that.
Degner's catching drivers out this afternoon.
No kidding. It has been a messy ride through the Degners so far. On board with Tucker. Tries to reel in Ron Wolf, or Alexander Buehler, sorry. Looks to the inside, dives to the inside, trying to go for the attack. Couldn't get enough overlap though, so he'll tuck back in line and maybe try to set it up down the pit straightaway. And look at that! Buehler missed.
Slow down for Buehler.
Oh yeah, no kidding. I thought maybe he missed a shift, but no, I think he slowed down, but is exactly right. But now because of that shot, now Tucker can't do much. As Buehler gets a run down the straightaway, but Buehler still has to look dirty. And how about this? Look at Scott Fleming up the middle of 3 wide into turn 1, and he's through.
Oh my gosh, but he's gonna go wide into turn number 2, which will put him back behind Austin Tucker, who eventually nets out the position he was trying to fight for, coming out of the final corner along that whole front start-finish stretch.
Boy, talk about coming out of nowhere, right? I mean, Fleming and Buehler were just, Tucker and Buehler minded their business, and Scott Fleming just came right through the middle with no warning. Further behind into turn 1. Look at this big gag of the cars from 21st on back.
This is, I think, part of the interesting part of racing, especially through the S's here. this train of cars and all of them trying to jockey for where they can find the exit out of the S's to make the pass. It's always such a great flowing place to just ride along and get the benefit of kind of the fuel saving. So I see we believe Chris Bright, now our latest victim of Degner's 2. And the exit curbing.
Even on the dry, it's very, very easy to underestimate Degner 2, right? And it's the profile of the way those curves are lifted up, and I believe Jason Lee has, in fact, just done the same thing. And whoa, right behind him, Shane Cameron does the same thing as well. As, oh boy, okay, we got a fight going on up here. What in the world is going on with Carson Catlin, Corey Barrett, and more side by side through 200R on the approach to Spoon?
Corey Barrett going to have the better line through here. Carson Catlin going to try to keep that car from sliding out into Sebastian Close, who is going to then lose out as these cars all jockey position. It is one of the harder spots to try to go too wide through Spoon curve, and like I was saying, you lose time there regardless of which side you're on there.
Gonna really quickly kind of demonstrate the point here and jump back to Jason Lee's spin here, coming out of the Spoon curve. So right there, you see that how he got caught up on the first Degner, and that caused him to then lose control into the second Degner. But it's all about the lifted curbs there, right? And you can see right how there is a bit of a lip to them. It's so easy for these Formula cars to just get beached on top of that. The floor digs in right there, and that is what has spun so many cars out of that second Degner today. And in fact, that is what caused Shane Cameron to go around behind him.
Well, it was close. He managed to gather it up, I believe, before it fully went around. But yeah, absolutely like what you're saying there. As soon as those tires get out, as we see Austin Tucker make the same mistake, we'll see it's one thing where they do not work. It stops being your friend and trying to use it as curbing and immediately wants to try to kill it.
Boy, the top 12 has been a revolving door of drivers. They'll fight their way up to the top 5, get hung up on the Degner 2 curbs, and then just spin themselves out, wash, rinse, and repeat. It's seen a constant cycle filtering through, and it has seen quite the mess of gravel in that second Degner as well, start to create problems for other drivers, which I think, of course, only exacerbates the situation when you get down to it. Giovanni Romano under attack from Chris Flams.
These two going at it, and I think Chris Flams trying to make a return fight from when Giovanni passed him just a little while ago. Fast and lap. So we see a good number of cars, including Erik Cronenberg, Tyler August, Ben Williams floating out there.
Yeah, Ben Williams going out wide, really wide for Williams. That's unusual to see cars going off at that angle into 130R. You normally only see that if you've had wheel-to-wheel contact to some degree. Take a look.
You'll see it here in just a moment.
Oh, late defense.
Ben Williams and Erik Cronenberg, I think, has a self-spin separate of that. You see him there where he rejoins, as it is. He gets too much curbing at the same time and then just loses it. And that is why he's out there.
Just as easy of a mistake to make with how tempting that corner is. There you see Kyle Blevins off the road at the second Degner. Quickly trying to rejoin and keep it off the racing line. All's well ends well, but he has now dropped outside of top 12. He is down to 14th. Right now, that spot held by Ryan Verhulst, but Justin Hall is not far behind, trying to close the gap.
Justin Hall also trying not to get that car to do another 50-50 grind on the Degner's to exit curve. So we see Ron Wolf, I believe, a similar issue. Excuse me, grab back. No.
Kyle Blevins now attacking Matthew Dupuy for 14th. As we will start the final trip around the Suzuka circuit here in sprint racing competition. Tom Vidal chug it to the back end as well to the gearbox. It's a three-way battle for 14th through 16th. No invert spots on the line here, no points on the line. This is just to see who's going to start where in the main event.
It'll be interesting to see this run down to start finish stretch as they go too wide. Probably another good example of the way that these corners will have to be taken. Matthew Dupuis edging out in front of Kyle Blevins, keeps the line going. Tabadol going to try to make the most of it as well. We'll see Kyle Blevins end up at the third of all these.
Blevins' backslide going to continue here this afternoon. A battle picking up within the top 12 is Evan Campbell versus Austin Tucker, as Adam Joseph Milhide has just had a bit of a half spin deeper in the field. Copper with the signature black flag will be sent to the rear of the field before too long here. But meanwhile, Tucker going to keep up the pressure on Evan Campbell, not wanting to let him get away.
Yeah, I'd say trying to see if he can keep moving forward, getting more points for that sprint race. So that way he has a little bit of an easier time trying to get through the feature. In terms of the point haul, it's going to be a wide run for Austin Tucker onto or out of spoon curve towards the backstretch.
There's the look. Trying to go for position. Meanwhile, Aaron Thacker comes across the line. Thacker takes the victory in the sprint race this afternoon. Austin Tucker's made the move into 130R. Campbell trying to battle back into the Casio Triangle. Can't get the job done. Chris Bright going to look to fend off Darren Bai as well.
All those drivers coming across the final corners here. Evan Campbell might have had a slowdown.
Well, he's been able to recover from it effectively as, okay, well, there goes Justin Hall. There goes Dupuis and more. You know, there's been quite a few Super Formula crashes here at Suzuka down at turn 1. I don't think any of them quite hold up to this, though.
I don't think it's quite in the same spirit. Most of those are them trying to stay on the track.
Yeah.
And these ones are all them trying to get off the track
as quickly as possible.
With speed to create a pile of parts in the runoff.
With speed and with gusto. But
absolutely.
That will do it for the sprint racing action here this afternoon. That's an impressive pole vault over the turn 1 wall. As we'll take a rundown of your official results here for heat race number 1. Top 10 up on your screens. We have got more racing action coming at you. We'll be back in a moment with more on Green Flight TV. Stay with us.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
welcome back to Green Flag TV, where we are seconds away from kicking off main event action here in Japan. If you're just tuning in, welcome to the show. My name is Rempel alongside Acinni, as we bring you all of racing action from start to finish here this afternoon. Fen, a thriller of a sprint race here earlier on, but I don't think one that quite played out the way either of us were expecting.
I don't think so, but I was not unhappy with how it wasn't a unpleasant surprise. I was thrilled to see the one of the more technical tracks, especially with some of the way that these cars have to drive on them, caught a few of their drivers out. We'll see how much they learned in their sprint race and how much they're going to take into the feature to make sure that they don't make the same mistake twice is going to be the goal. But only time will tell in our hour-long feature race coming up in just a second.
Well, the field is set and ready to go once again. So here it is, the starting grid for the main event, the 1 hour main event here coming up this time by. It's going to be Justin Hall starting on pole position. Ryan Verhulst, 6 minutes back in second. Chris Bright down in number 3 alongside Austin Tucker. Alongside Evan Campbell. Austin Tucker starts in 5th alongside Ron Wolf. From there, it's Chris Flams, Giovanni Romano sitting down in 7th and 8th. 9th and 10th is headed up by Darren Bai alongside Alexander Bueller. And then it is runner-up and sprint race winners, Scott Fleming and Aaron Thacker. Rest of the field going to go down with Matthew Dupuis, Kyle Blevins, Todd Badol, Tyler Agostino, Eric Ronenberg, Ben Williams, Corey Barrett, Carson Catlin, Jason Lee, Ryan Murphy, Adam Joseph Milhot, Sebastian Close, Tyler Carlton, Jake Kasich, Shane Cameron, Gabriel Gonzalez, Kyle Smith, Justin Versi, Greg Beckman, Brooks Clayton, Alex Cofford, and Henry Lieberman brings up the tail of the 34-car field.
And I am excited to see where these guys will all end up in an hour's time, how that impacts the final race of the season and the championship standings here as they come to a close.
Still one race left to go after today as well, remember, and this championship continuing to only increase in its manic intensity all throughout, and it's not going to be any different here when we go racing this coming week at a track that the Super Formula Lights might also have been a bit familiar to within the past, as just waiting on the last few cars of the grid, and then we'll get main event action here underway.
I'm excited for the finale. I think it'll be a blast with these cars.
I think for many drivers, it's who wouldn't be, right? I mean, it's Super Formula Lights. Fair. It's been a very thrilling season so far. It's the first open wheels. Let me rephrase. It's the first proper open wheel car that the Beer League has ever run in its history, and it continues to put on a show. The green flag coming out this time by. And it's go, go, go! Justin Hall doesn't go! Justin Hall stalls off the line! And now coming down towards turn number 1, it's Disaster Hall. Everyone avoids him off the jump. And swinging out wide into turn number 1, into the snake for the first time this afternoon. As everyone able to pull through clean. They get through turn 1 all right, safe and sound. Now, how do they handle turn numbers 2 and onward? One car going around, it's Chris Bright. Brights off into the wall. John Combs goes off and out wide. He's going to rejoin the racetrack. That's Ryan Murphy. Correction on that one. And other than those 2 cars, relatively clean start as we head our way up to the Degners.
Yeah, we get through the S's, being clear Dunlop. We're going to see what happens with Degners 1 and 2. It's still a little bit of water on this track despite all the racing we've done on it. And that may cause problems here.
Degner 2 has been a major trouble spot for this field. While some cars get a little bit upset through there, it looks like we're more or less able to keep it fully clean and green. Same story through the hairpin, now up towards the spoon curve at the back end of the racetrack here, as again we see several drivers looking to poke the noses out and make moves as we continue our strong momentum drive through the opening lap.
That we do. It's still too wide for a lot of this field as they go into spoon curve. A sketchy place to run it, especially if we still got water on this circuit. They seem to be getting through it without issue. As we go too wide between Alex Tucker and Ryan Verhulst at the lead of this field through 130R.
Too wide for the lead. They're able to get it back down to single file. We'll see if anybody else dares go too wide. There is Ben Williams going too wide with Jason Lee. And they're actually going to go 3 wide here, coming down into the Casio Triangle. Look at Jason Lee. Sorry, no, that's Jake Kasich taking 2 for 2. And Ben Williams gets hung up on the standing water.
He does, keeps that car going the right direction. That was going to slide in behind Jason Lee. The two of them leapfrogged by Jake Kasich, who really took that late apex, forced that 3 wide. And Austin Tucker finds himself at the front of the field after a tense start from the stall out of Justin Hall.
2 cars off and into the barriers. It's Erik Ronenberg and Todd Badol, but looking like a pretty nondescript incident for the 2 of them. So we'll keep eyes up on the racetrack here. And the absolute manic racing that we are seeing develop here over the course of this afternoon. The top 2 again still remain close. Tucker's out wide onto the AstroTurf. That'll disrupt his run. But oh, whoa, hold on. A big snap there for Tucker. Here comes Ryan Verhoeven attacking him into the hairpin.
Yeah, Austin Tucker is going to hold the inside line, going to force Ryan Verhoeven to go around the outside. And Ryan Verhoeven, I think, he's going to end up having to cede the position still. But a great catch from Austin Tucker kept that from being an incident where he found himself earlier in the sprint race.
And problem for Verhoeven, right? It's just so hard to hang a pass around the outside of the hairpin there. You got to really just kind of back out and maybe hope you can swing it for the over-under, but Tucker had that car firmly parked on the apex. The over-under opportunity was never there. As they make their way under the Panasonic and Dunlop signage and up to 130R. Tucker taking the defensive line, not wanting to give an opening to Ryan Verhulst. While Ron Wolf sizing up Evan Campbell, will look to the inside into the Casio Triangle. He sure will. Campbell gets turned. He's going to go spinning and into the tires.
That's a heartbreaker for Evan Campbell. That's one of those things where I wonder if it just caught him weird, and netcode said that they had made contact even though they hadn't.
Yeah, kind of a little bit there on that one, if I'm being honest.
Oh, it's look at the replay. It super looks like netcode did Evan Campbell a disservice there.
Several drivers going double file into the opening corner on the racetrack, showing that there is still no fear being demonstrated from this pack, as everyone is just eager to go, take, not a lot of give here in the opening couple of laps this afternoon from Suzuka.
Yeah, they have still 55 minutes of racing left to go, so plenty of time to both make up as well as lose rounds. They have to find their pace somewhere amongst all this, and then hopefully keep those cars going the right direction for that entire time. This naked cars from Darren By on back is fantastic. Thank you,
Code 69 window officially open here this afternoon as Gonzalez is sent out wide. Bit of contact there, and Tyler Carlton nearly spins him around. But yeah, the Code 69 window is officially open. Last week's race went caution free. Chances on that happening twice in a row extremely slim. So big question is, will this safety car now be, or will the Code 69, be one that we get late, early, somewhere in the middle? It's anyone's guess. Last week we had none.
Yeah, last week we had none. A couple weeks ago, though, we had 2. So I think it'll be anyone's guess on whether or not we actually get one. I'm super curious if we'll end up with one with all the... Oh, Giovanni Romano accidentally runs into the back of Gabriel Gonzalez with that braking zone. Try not to get those wet tires too locked up before they get dried out. Bring Sebastian Close right back into that fight.
Not a lot of moves being attempted down into turn number 1. Although that said, right, turn 1 is an extremely risky place to attempt a lunge, because you gotta be so much deeper on even just lifting out of the throttle. You gotta remember, right, in the Formula 1 car, realistically, you can kind of go nearly full throttle through that opening apex with how much downforce those cars carries. Now, into these cars, you can do that just because they lack the speed. But that doesn't mean you can all of a sudden randomly go side by side, because of how quickly that car is going to push out to the left-hand side, where you have to get back on the binders and arc it back in for the second apex.
Certainly. The aero to power ratio for these cars very similar to, as we see, I think Brooks Clayton going off in the back there. Yeah, the power to aero ratio very similar to F1 cars, so you can just kind of throw it in to turn number 1, but you do have to get on the brakes, and that's if everything's perfect and you don't have to fight another car. If you have to do that, then somebody's got to lift somewhere, or you have cars going flying out wide, like we saw Tom Adol, Erik Ronenberg earlier on in this feature race.
Further up, Alex Crawford, the driver that started on pole position and who started last in this race, already up 17 positions in under 10 laps. So Crawford has been slowly making moves more and more, side by side through 130R. Heads up, Justin Hall and Kyle Blevins side by side out into the triangle. Blevins trying to hold that one the long way around. That turns into the short way around for him, though. And Justin Hall fights his way around the outside because Blevins slipped up on the water.
Yeah, a great catch there from Blevins to keep that car from sliding further out from him. One car not as lucky, though. I believe that was Aaron Thacker. That's a blind.
It was actually Erik Ronenberg that went off there at 130R. Thacker's right behind this battle here.
Off. That he is, but Austin Tucker off from the lead of the race. We'll see him get passed by this group of cars here just momentarily. He had an off there, as along with Matthew Dupuis.
So a handful of incidents then as drivers started to encounter some of the trials and tribulations here of Suzuka. Let's take a look first at the spin where Erik Ronenberg caught the water, spun her out. Bit of a nondescript slide, and then Austin Tucker, after coming around through turn 1, he had built up quite the lead for himself at the head of the field. But unfortunately, maybe got a little bit too comfortable. As in the snake, he also caught the water, spun off into the wall hard. And how much you wanted to bet that Dupuis has done the exact same thing?
I'm going to guess that is exactly what happened for him. You can see that car pitch the direction. The tires that did catch the water no longer applying the power correctly. And then you see it just spin, and they are no longer driving that car, and they are in fact passing.
Jake Kasich now piling on the pressure at the back of Aaron Thacker. Looks for the right-hand side. Watch for the standing water still being kicked up by these drivers as Thacker tucks in line. Does not want to go side by side of the 130R. Up front, again, Blevins and Hall duking it out. 2 by. Blevins again around the outside. He's in too deep. Cuts the AstroTurf. Chops back across, but this time he'll hold it. Justin Hall can't get the crossover.
Justin Hall can't, but in addition to all that movement, is going to put both Jake Kasich as well as Aaron Thacker into this battle, and it's now 4-way. 2x2 they go into turn number 1. Justin Hall looking to make it 3 wide, but he backs out before it comes to problem.
Pretty good move there, or wise move from Justin Hall to back out of that one. That was not going to end well if he tried to push the issue on that. Aaron Thacker also in the fray. Going to get a bit caught up. And Austin Tucker off the road again. You see him tumbling down the order at the tail of the field as day goes bad to worse for the driver that had a lead of over several seconds.
Yeah. I think he didn't learn his lesson the first time, so the track decided it wanted to remind him that there was, in fact, still water there.
Thacker and Hall taking 2 different approaches to Degner 2. Thacker running out wide, Justin Hall cut it in a little bit too shallow, so 2 different ways to not get the optimal drive out of that corner. You see how much Thacker is really pushing that car, wanting to close in to Kyle Blevins just up the road. Blevins himself running down Jake Kasich quite convincingly at the top end of this one.
Up until Austin Tucker had the fastest lap, I believe Kyle Blevins had it for a while, and that would be, I think, showing here with the pace that he has had and he keeps trying to have, as he will probably close down on Jake Kasich on this back stretch, really getting to use the draft throughout the entire stretch of straight road here before 130R. Kyle Blevins stays tucked in, doesn't want to risk it until now.
Blevins makes the move, dives down the inside for number 5. This time he slows her up. Good effort for him. Tyler Carlton around at 130R on the exit. He's going to nose her into the barriers, trying to get himself turned back around. But a big slide for number 45.
Yeah, we'll see it here, but he, much like Austin Tucker, another part of this track, catches the water on the inside of this corner. I'm super curious if it like rained in between the heat and the feature based on the amount of water that is standing now that I don't think we saw in the sprint race.
Right on board with Corey Bear right behind him, and look at how close he came to getting involved in that. He's just able to slip right through the middle. Meanwhile, Hall again going at it with Kyle Blevins as Hall has found a second win.
Well, he had the draft from Jake Kasich coming out of 130R and then the start-finish stretch to bring this battle back into the number of cars here. Chris Flam's also having a great recovery drive, third now in this pack of cars. We'll see the rest of them begin to float their way through as well.
All of this with a 1.9 second gap up to Jake Kasich, who currently runs in the 5th place spot at the very head of this pack. And then these guys now over 8 seconds behind Ryan Verhulst, the overall race leader of the day. As Justin Hall trying to see if he can keep Kyle Blevins, Aaron Thacker, and more behind him. There goes Blevins. Blevins making the look at a turn number, into the 130R corner. Oh boy. Side by side, well, can work in these cars. And they're going to make it work there. Blevins is back through.
Yeah, Justin Hall playing the smart game there to allow Blevins by, but he'll grab the draft back into the start-finish stretch. We'll see how these cars will probably swap, I would have to imagine, before turn number 1, or at least be alongside again.
So the fight with Justin Hall and Kyle Blevins, one that is set to continue. We got one that is starting to actually develop further up the road. This is Darren Bai and Scott Fleming. This is for the 3rd place spot. This gap, what used to be about 1.5 seconds, now that gap has actually been run down to only about 0.3 of a second. It has continued to have some runs, and around goes Ronenberg again, and he's going to take one car with them as off the road and into the tires going to go Sebastian Close.
A bit of a heartbreak there for Sebastian Close, who had been having a pretty fantastic drive for the sprint or feature race. These two cars separated by only 0.2, and that is due to lap times. Scott Fleming setting his personal best of the race of 153.55 to the 154.2 of Darren Bai, which is how they got so close so quickly. And now Scott Fleming looking to make the inside look at Spoon Curve.
Scott Fleming will try to get the nose in there. No joy, though, for the time being. As Fleming will continue to work the pressure. Fleming has clear by for that 3rd place spot, and now he's trying to pull a gap. If he can get up to Ron Wolf, he might be able to have a chance, but right now, Wolf is 2.5 seconds on the road, so he's got a long fight ahead of him if that's the strategy that he's going for. Here's the battle for 14th.
These guys, Ben Williams and Corey Barrett, still too wide there behind Evan Campbell. Interesting to see. Corey Barrett makes a spin there as he gets on the power too early, catching that water, which has spun him around.
Jason Lee thinking about going after Chris Flams into turn 1. But just like before, no joy. Not for lack of trying, though. Suzuka really is one of those tracks, right, that just kind of offers up this type of single file race just because of how difficult it is to pass it, right? It's so twisty, it's so technical. It is one of the more difficult racetracks on the Formula One calendar. Loved by fans and drivers alike for that reason. It is always a spectacle to watch drivers trying to chuck, especially open wheel machinery around here, as fast as they can possibly go.
Absolutely. It's, I think, one of the more fun tracks as well. Really leverages, I think, the strengths of open wheel racing. And you still have room to battle with some of these cars in sectors in certain areas Whereas if you were in, I think, the GT machinery, it's an even harder track to both pass on as well as maintain any sort of track position without seating one way or the other. And I'm excited. It's always fun to see these cars whip it around Suzuka, and despite them being slower than some of their faster, open wheel cousins, I think it's no less exciting for these drivers out here at Buehling tonight.
Now, while this might be one of the more technical tracks in the iRacing service, there is another Japanese track that will likely be playing host to the finale this season. Another track that is near and dear to Super Formula fans' hearts. The Temple of Speed, the Fuji Speedway, will likely be the place where we'll be racing for the final time in just 1 week's time. Now, while this track is all about technical expertise, Fuji is where the actual speed and the overtake is at, especially down some of the longer straightaways that track offers up. The only real technical part is in the back third of the lap. Going to make it an extremely unique challenge once again to close out the season, and I couldn't think of a better place for these cars to wrap up a championship.
I certainly couldn't either. The one thing I really love about Fuji is it has a little bit of everything in one, I think, fun track. That nice long, mile-long straight down the start-finish stretch, plenty of time for all those cars with the high top ends, as well as that raw power to stretch their legs. You get then more and more progressively technical throughout the lap, and I think it really shows that transition, especially for these open wheelers. It's going to be such a fun difference, especially you can see where drivers capitalize on either speed or their ability to make the most out of the car in those technical sectors to gain the lap time there at Fuji. It's, I think, one of my personal favorites to have racing at Fuji Speedway.
Towards the front, Justin Hall still fights off Alex Coffin from behind. A battle started to develop with the race lead, by the way. Rob Wolf has slowly but surely been reeling in Ryan Verhulst here. Now he looks for the inside, trying to go over the top spot here, coming down into the Castro Triangle. Contact for the lead, and Ron Wolf, he takes the lead, but he goes off the road, and Ryan Verhulst sweeps right through to take it back.
Yeah, Ron Wolf, I think, unfortunately, caught in a bit of an awkward spot there as a result of the way those cars come down, and he just gets tossed out to the side as a result of the wheels making contact.
It's questionable, right, on if Verhulst left Rob Wolf enough room to work with there. I don't really think he did. I think he was trying to pinch him in and keep him from getting a good turn-in point to the Castro Triangle and just misjudged the margin.
I don't think there was a misjudged margin on both sides there. I would have to agree. I think there's still a little bit more room that could have been used by Ron, but at the same time, the angle of those cars, I think, was eventually going to happen. Just when was the question, not if.
Well, Aaron Thacker going to also try to move his way further through the field as Hall hops up and over the crest there, over the Degner 2. Tell you what, drivers have been doing a really good job since the sprint race on really wrangling in the attacks of the Degner 2 curving, and they've been able to mostly manage it. I don't think we've seen a single spin down there yet.
I think we've seen a couple close calls, or at least I have somewhere, I think both on broadcast as well as on my feed, but I have not seen the spins we got in the sprint race. So I definitely think, like you said, a lot of drivers finding that understanding and how to take that corner without spinning the car. You see a lot of them will either ride on one side or the other, and that's the way to get through it without launching it, like you said, where it kind of gets beached on that center part there. If you ride all the way over, you'll also find even the same way you are if you stay on one side, on the inside.
Casey makes the dive on Darren behind the 130R, and that will lead to a subsequent overtake through the initial run there. Oh, and now we see Ryan Verhulst off the road. Verhulst has just gone off the road and has let Rob Wolf back in front.
He collected Scott Fleming in the process, got caught on that water on the inside of the final chicane, and when he was coming back onto the track, or really trying to rejoin, we'll see here in a moment.
Take a look.
Has fine inside, goes for the exit, hits that water, slides out, tries to keep the car going, and then catches the wheel of Scott Fleming, both of them losing out points from where they were as a result. Ron Wolf finding himself back at the sharp end of the stick.
Tough break, but right now a lot of the field has bigger concerns to worry about as Mercer Clayton takes a bit of a slide through turn 1. But I tell you what, all the carnage for the race lead over the last little while, this has really dragged this battle right in. Remember when Blevins and Justin Hall, they were fighting for that 6th place spot, what, like 8 seconds behind the leaders? Now they're within 3 because of all this drama that's picked up for the race lead over the last 10 minutes or so.
That they are. Justin Hall, however, I think is going to find himself once again back outside of it as he just spins in the hairpin. But I absolutely agree. The entire battle now for all of these positions is up for grabs as Ron Wolf leads with just a second. And then there's less than a second between pretty much every car behind Ron Wolf up to P8.
A move. Scott Fleming down the inside of Ryan Verhulst real high. Verhulst lifts, lets Fleming in line, but because he lifted, that leaves him vulnerable to attack. Here comes Alex Coffer fighting his way around the outside of the number 12. That's going to turn to the inside, and Alex Coffer can't commit to a proper send.
Yeah, trying to be patient there and not run into that water, which will inevitably cause him to go sliding out if he uses too much power while going through it. But he remains close enough as it is. Aaron Thacker trying to get around Ben Williams.
Plenty of racing action kicking off. Now we've seen, oh boy, yes, Ryan Verhulst getting to Scott Fleming. With this Code 69 seeming to be nowhere in sight, we've seen before strategy games have played a part. Do we reckon we see that again as Greg Beckman has gone around as well, and he was missing the rear wing?
Oh, that's going to be, I think, a bit rough for Greg Beckman. It'll get snapped back on because damage is not on these cars. Chris Flam's also joining those. I think our first full victim of Degner 2. See Greg Beckman here getting clobbered by Gabriel Gonzalez.
But going back to it, right, do you think we see any kind of like field games being played here among some of the leaders as we prepare for our first run of pit stops of the night?
I think we might see some try to extend. Fuel percentage is 53% tonight at Suzuka, which I think is a pretty solid two-stopper. But we'll have to see if there is, that fuel game, because anytime you don't have to, the less time you get to spend on pit road, the better regardless. So we'll see if those drivers want to make a little bit of fuel saving happen over the course of the night and maybe shorten up that second pit stop pretty considerably.
2 goes off the road. Gabriel Gonzalez and Eric Ronenberg was slow as well. And, well, here we go. Speaking of pit stops, into pit road is Ben Williams. So William makes his drive down to the lane.
69 is going to come in at the end of lap 14. That's why.
Ah, there we go. And we just started lap 14.
See Corey Barrett also dive in. I'm guessing we're going to see quite a lot of this field dive in next time by.
Or now even, right? I mean, several drivers are in now.
Yeah.
Brooks, Clayton, Carson Catlin, Greg Beckman, all into the pits.
For those that were in front of the start-finish line and therefore in front of the pit entry line when that Code 69 came out, I'm going to guess we'll see them come in next time by. It's more. That's what I probably should have said the first time. But
Wolf maintaining his momentum as he'll lead the field through turn numbers. Well, through the, I keep wanting to say turn numbers 3 and 4, right? I'm still on the so often the oval brain of things here as we move around to 130R.
To be fair, I believe those 2 corners for Spoon Curve are 13 and 14. So if you just add a
there we
10,
go.
it's almost the same thing.
You know what? Close enough. 3 and 4 in the
Yeah,
tens
exactly.
range. As
Yeah.
Wolf will lead us around, and here they come to pit road as well.
Yep, we'll see. I think a good portion of this field dive in for that first pit stop of the night. I definitely think that makes it just about a 2-stopper, maybe a little bit of a splash and dash, but we'll see as all of these cars dive in. Pretty much, I think everybody who didn't dive in before, or that couldn't make it in before the Code 69 window went out.
So Code 69 is now in play. And how about that? Jake Kasich jumping Wolf for the lead out of pit road.
Yeah, a 6.57 pit stop time versus a 7.63. I wonder if he is short fueling a little bit because he knows he's going to have to come back in.
It'd be a smart play. Get yourself out in front. Make sure you don't need to worry about it going forward. Well, the Code 69 out for the first time here this afternoon. We'll take ourselves with a quick step back and return with more racing action on Green Flag TV in just a moment. You stay with us. We'll go side by side.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Green Flag TV. Still under our first of a potential of 2 Code 69s here on the afternoon. Once again, my name is Rempel alongside Acinni, bring you all of racing action. You haven't missed much. A few cars came down for secondary pit stops last time we came around to the line. Those drivers including the likes of Romano and more. Playing a bit of fuel games here. We got under halfway, and once we go green, we're only going to have about 12 minutes or less before that window closes.
Code 69 being told it will end soon. So I think it'll be an interesting time. If we get a second one, I think it'll be a fast 1 lap. Quickie 69, as they call it.
Yeah, we wouldn't even need to, it would be literally just enough to bunch the field up, and that would be it, right? So here we go, green flag taking off here this afternoon as we are back to racing action in this one. Several cars bunching up towards the tail end, but meanwhile we are clear and we are green towards turn number 1.
That we are watching those cars come out of the green flag into the chicane is always a interesting spot to be given the green flag. Oh, Ryan Verhulst's finding himself on the outside alongside Todd Madole.
And Evan
Chris
Campbell.
Flams.
And
Oh,
more.
man.
They're all going off at turn 1.
Gosh.
Boy, well, I think that shows that some of the guys just didn't keep enough heat in the tires.
Absolutely.
You know, one thing I want to make mention here this afternoon, Giovanni Romano, we talked about him making his 100th start earlier this season. 2 drivers making their 100th starts this season. Erik Ronenberg and Jeremy Castro, 100 starts, right? A very impressive feat in any league, especially one that's been running for 12 plus seasons.
Certainly.
Or in their 11th season, sorry.
We will be starting their 12th season here pretty shortly based on what I've seen from them as we see cars finally, I think, well, not unfortunately, making their Degners 2 reminder.
The Degner 2 corner strikes again as a few drivers ended up going a bit far off there that time around. Meanwhile, Thacker fighted it out with Agostino up the hill towards 130R as Agostino leans on the door of Aaron Thacker. Thacker continuing to hold on. Oh boy, pushing out to the left-hand side. And Thacker retains.
Agostino finally having to lift there to not have that car spin on him. Still a little bit of water in that inside of that second part of the chicane, but he's going to have the draft coming out of the final corner here, which will give him the run down to turn number 1. Aaron Thacker going to slide behind him. Austin Tucker, evasive maneuvers, trying not to run into him in the process.
And from the drones up overhead, you can watch as these guys go screaming back down into the opening couple of corners as Thacker trying to find some momentum here round the long way for the 69 of Tyler Agostino. And Agostino still able to hold on and now started to pull clear. As off the road, going to go Ben Williams into the gravel.
Yeah, just running a little wide there, trying not to run into Aaron Thacker amongst all those other drivers. keeps that car going the right direction, however. Puts himself just in front of Scott Fleming as all of these cars now scream through Degner's 1 and 2. And Scott Fleming, unfortunately, becomes a victim again. Tyler Carlton, Gabriel Gonzalez also getting wrapped up in another incident.
And there's Scott Fleming up the road. Everyone goes basically around him. We're now 3 wide as you also saw the 38 of Sebastian Kloskin. He turned into the corner, and boy, it is just complete discoordination end to the hair of it as no one had a good idea of what anybody else was doing.
Yeah, I wonder if one or two of them had a slowdown they were trying to serve, and in amongst all that, the other drivers had no idea what was going on.
Well, the fight is still on as Sebastian Klos trying to rip up there. Tyler Carlton looking set to try and make a drive up as well. Oh, and into the wall, big for Greg Beckman, deeper in the field, and even more spectacular is Agostino off the road towards the final couple of corners, and another big crash at 130R.
Yeah, Kyle Smith, I believe, as well as
Dupuis, it looks like.
Yeah, Dupuis.
Boy, it's just become a mess here for the last little while. There's Chris Bright battling with Tyler Agostino. And this is what happened at 130R to Kyle Smith. Oh, man, just got run over by Dupuis and then nosed it into the wall.
Yeah, I think trying to get a car turned right back around so it wasn't rolling backwards, but in the process ended up finding the nose there. Oh, man, that's a hard impact for Dupuis, however.
No kidding, yeah, it just went straight on. The front wing got caught under the race car and just sent him straight on. And meanwhile, Austin Tucker, again, falling victim to Degner 2, spears off the road, but gets it back onto the racetrack, and we're all sorted now.
That we are. Giovanni Romano, however, lost control in Degner 1, which finds him stuck there. Evan Campbell locking it up, trying to avoid him.
He'll nose it into the wall. As now we got Blevins, Crawford, Wolf, 2 through 4. All of the 130R as Alex Crawford is able to try and close back up to the tail end of Kyle Blevins. And, you know, for all the issues that Blevins has had today, I'm very surprised and pleasantly so to see him still fighting with it and running all the way up here at the head of the field.
They've all been such small things that have just, I think, kept him. And I think the Code 69 really helped him. Another driver that had a fast pit stop, 7 seconds in pit lane itself, or excuse me, pit box itself. I think it also really helped him. So between those two, I think is what really allowed him to stay in the game, as they say. So it's super exciting to see. Hopefully he can keep up with Jake Kasich there at the front, or at least keep Alex Crawford behind. Jason Lee, I think, have another spin.
Sure did. Jason Lee having yet another issue for his race, which is just, again, salt in the wounds like is the case for most drivers here in this one. We have 20 minutes to go. 5 minutes before the Code 69 window closes, and based on how late that first one came out, I don't see us getting the second one.
I don't either. I'm going to be pleasantly surprised if we get a Quickie 69 of any kind, but my guess would also be no.
Not a lot of actual battles close getting to side-by-side. A lot of drivers have been split apart as a result of this, although, oh, whoa, hold on, one car taking flight and flipping side over side, end over end. That was Dupuis, who went for a monster tumble under the Bridgestone bridge.
Gabriel Gonzalez also wrapped up in that as he had gotten spun, or self-spun alongside Brian Verhulst, and that is where that car ended up.
Yeah.
That's how that happened.
Looked like it started with Kyle Smith getting turned around.
He just arrived late on scene. He had his own self-spin at this point.
Oh, yeah, correct. Sorry, this was something completely different. Kyle Blevins, by the way, set in the fast lap of the race, but this was Gonzalez Going off the road with Ryan Verhulst right there. And here comes Dupuy unsighted and went for a ride. Look at Giovanni Romano
Great
just slipping
heads up.
through that.
Yeah, fantastic heads-up driving from Romano there to keep that car not getting smashed by the tumbling Matthew Dupuy. Yeah, both those drivers having a bit of a slide, and then
Right there, you saw like the left rear kick off against the tire barrier, so that's what really sent him tumbling. And honestly, he's probably lucky he did hit that. If he didn't hit that, that car would have gone over the wall.
I think it would have had it not, and then he would have been forced to have the toe there, which I think is probably would be the nail in the coffin there.
With Romano, as he jukes around to the right and goes into the grass to avoid a tumbling Matthew Dupuy, and Tucker again off at the first Degner.
All the cars that we were happy that weren't getting caught out in this early on in the race seem to be coming back.
There you see Ryan Murphy. Murphy just managed to get around Chris Flams, but Flams really trying to battle back. Look at Flams now going around the long way on the approach to Spoon. And outside turns the inside, and you just cannot fight a move to the outside of the Spoon curve. Through goes Flams, but he went out wide there. That might give him a slowdown penalty.
I think it will, with how much he was over though in that AstroTurf and off the racing circuit. I'd have to imagine it gets him something at this point besides
Doesn't look like
just
it.
a 1X. Well, that or he doesn't want to serve it. Both could be an option.
I think he kind of looked for a move there. I don't think he has one, or he would have been going for the attack there on Giovanni Romano, because you only have 30 seconds to slow it, and that 30 seconds, that's up by now.
That window closes pretty rapidly once you get back down the start-finish stretch. So, I believe he lucked out then.
Just 1 minute before the Code 69 window will close. As Carson Catlin trying to fight it out here with Mailhot as well as Ronenberg. Ronenberg trying to make something go his way, as it now Williams is one that finds or falls victim to the Degner.
Yep.
And Ronenberg able to slip around Mailhot.
Like it. See if we know how it has a response. Come out of the hairpin. Looks like a lovely overtake done by Erik Ronenberg coming out of Degner's too.
So Mailhot going to try to make that look to go around Ronenberg here. As a lot of these midfield battles are still showing signs of closing in, the Code 69 window is closed. It will be a one caution race here this afternoon. And Alex Coffer set to try and push the envelope and go for the win of the race, as he is now only 1 second behind Jake Casey for the top spot.
Both him and Kyle Blevins closing it up, making this battle for the podium one of a fight. I gotta imagine that the goal here is probably going to be one battle of attrition for Jake Casey, because he did have the shortest fuel stop of both. Oh, excuse me, second shortest. Alex Coffer did have a shorter pit stop, so we'll have to see when they come in, if they come in. I believe they should be coming in based on the fact they all pitted before the halfway mark. That was also the Code 69, so either is possible at this point.
Well, the top three will be a gap that might continue to close over the next little while. We'll update you if that closes much further. For now, still got 6th and 7th in a battle with one another. You've got Catlin and Ronenberg in a battle with one another. And they are at the second Degners. Catlin running a bit wide through them, and that is going to slow them up just enough to allow Erik Ronenberg to have an attack down the inside into the hairpin, and he's going to sweep around the outside and take it.
I think Carson Catlin decided not to fight that one and allow it to go through. Tyler Carlton having the issue at Degners 2 at this point.
Fight for the lead continuing to develop as Blevins being forced to turn up the pressure here to try and run down Kyle Blevins at the head of the field. This is what Alex Cofford sees out of his halo. And look at the defensive job being put on from Jake Kasich there. Wanted to make sure there is absolutely no room for Blevins to go around the inside, and a big move back to the outside. He's going to force Blevins to take this the hard way.
That he is, and basically going to say, hey, you're going to have to hang out behind me throughout all of the S's. There's no real overtaking spots throughout most of this. It's that single line in order to get both the most time as well as keep the car stable. So they'll be really looking for his opportunity coming probably out of Degners 2 here at this point.
Into Degner 1. The gap again grows, but when we get around out of Spoon Curve, it's going to start to shrink again with all that slipstream. And even a bit before, if Blevins can start to get a good run, he still is within half a second. That is more than enough to be a considerable threat to Jake Kasich's reign. And, well, now the gap for a moment dipped under 0.4 of a second.
That it did. Corey Barrett, the latest in the Degners 2. I think probably see the look here. It's Kyle Blevins in 0.3 of a second.
2 cars off. That is Shane Cameron and Erik Ronenberg again going off the road. So just rough rides continue for them. We'll look at that in a moment. For now, Kyle Blevins is right there with Jake Kasich and is going to go for the attack here down into the Casio Triangle for the lead. Round the outside into the chicane. Kasich pushes wide, forces Blevins out to the left-hand side. Blevins tries to repay the favor on the exit, but Kasich is on the final corner. Now it's a drag race down the front straightaway, and here comes Coffer.
Yeah, Coffer getting the better run out of all of these drivers, not having to fight too wide through any of them. Kyle Blevins going to run too wide alongside with Kasich. These two going to take it through turn 1 into turn 2. Kyle Blevins looking for that over-under. He's going to have to brake to not hit Jake Kasich, and will end up behind him once more.
Tough break. Could have been a good ride for him there as, oh man, now Justin Hall having a big moment here coming into the corner. We'll look at that in just a moment. For now, this was what happened. There you saw a big impact into the wall. And oh man, fired right back across the track into the path of Erik Ronenberg, who had absolutely nowhere to go. And then seconds later, Justin Hall turned to the middle 130R, a massive accident, spearing him off and in towards the 130R runoff area.
2 brutal incidents there that I think are telltale signs that racers are starting to get tired. Oh my goodness.
Lucky that neither of those cars went upside down, especially in Justin Hall's case.
The defense, Jake Kasich, continues.
And there's the look as Blevins again trying to go for the lead on Jake Kasich here. Round the outside. Can he hold it this time? Oh, contact between the 2 leaders as they come out of the Casio Triangle. Heading down the front straightaway. Jake Kasich still with the lead. Kyle Blevins closing. Makes the look. Left-hand side. Cobb right behind. Does he put it 3? Contact! Big contact! Both cars step it out. And Kasich still maintains the lead.
Yeah, Kyle Blevins looking for that over-under now. I think he's getting impatient, tired of being behind Jake Kasich for an entire lap, but still doesn't have the run to get through before the S's. I think Kyle Blevins was trying to squeeze Jake Kasich there into turn number 1, and that's how that contact happened.
It didn't quite go according to the plan for Jake Kasich here. Well, you got a big pack of 4 here. This 13th on back A bit of a scrap. Here's Armato, takes them down to the turn number 1 with Sebastian close around the outside. And Brooks Clayton. Brooks Clayton has actually just taken a tow down to pit road. So a big mess for Clayton. What the heck has happened to the number 9? Take a look. This is into the Casio triangle. Spun from behind. And he just called it quits.
I think so.
Thought for a moment he may have gone over a wall somewhere or got turtled. It would have surprised me with some of the ferocity of the accidents that we've seen as of late. Crawford has started to drop back for this lead battle as well.
I think Alex Crawford, is giving him a little bit of space at this point. He's watched them go too wide into the chicane every time. Last lap, they had contact. This time, Kyle Blevins is going to play it safe. He's going to wait for his opportunity to get a good run out of the chicane here. I think he's going to probably net him a better speed, probably a better opportunity there to overtake. There's the defense.
Blevins around the outside. Can he hold it? Not quite. Jake Kasich still. Oh, yes, he does. Look at this. Kyle Blevins around the outside through turn number 1, trying to hold on. Kasich misses the inside of turn 2. Blevins trying to get the nose in there. A great defensive move there from Jake Kasich, and he just barely fends him off.
This is some fantastic battling between these two drivers, but just a little ways back. Alexander Buehler, Ron Wolf, and Aaron Thacker in a much similar situation alongside Darren Bai.
Aaron Thacker trying to see if he can't make the lunge here on Ron Wolf, as Wolf in a bit of trouble right now. Thacker trying to see if he can't find a way through. And like you say, Buehler and Bai very much in the mix. Very much ready to battle. Up front. Coming to about 3 laps to go or less. This time by might even be 2. Blevins still within a quarter second of Kasich. I'm going to be honest. I think this is going to end in tears for both of them.
I get the feeling it might. We'll have to see how it plays out. See how they've been driving incredibly respectfully of each other. Though, as I say this, Kyle Blevins finally making that look before the 130R corner. But still has to fight with contend with Jake Kasich all on the inside under the chicane. Looking for the over-under, but doesn't get it done. Alex Crawford a little ways back at this point. I think he had a Degners 2 incident in terms of the usual Degners 2, but kept it going the right direction. So that's why he's only just over a second in the back of that shot. Oh man, these two, once again.
I mean, you say these guys have raced respectively with each other, right? But remember, they've made contact about 3 or 4 times in this battle as well. So that respect could wane very, very quickly here this afternoon. While they are sorting that out, still got this fight back here as well.
Yeah, these 4, I think, Aaron Thacker at the back of it, really trying to get around Ron Wolf at this point. You can see he's glued to that gearbox as tight as he allows without causing that car in front of him to have issues. All 4 of them still duking it out for these other spots in the top 10. I imagine this one also ending in a heartbreak. We'll have to see.
Well, Thacker going to try and make that look on Ron Wolf. The top 2 still close. And you saw right there, Blevins thought about an attack into Spoon. That would have been very unpredictable, and he thought twice about it. Backed out, and that sets him up with a massive run all the way down the stretch here into 130R. Seeking to make something happen here. And
still too wide. Goodness.
Still too wide. Down in the brake zone of the chicane. Oh, again, Blevins off the road. Kasich is as well. And still, Kasich hangs off of the lead. We got 2 laps to go.
Yeah, with 2 laps to go, I definitely think this is going to go down to the final lap if possible. But amongst all this, Alex Crawford now within 2/10 of them once again. As these two duke it out, they're setting lap times that are much slower than Alex Crawford, who has just been cruising behind them after his slight, mix-up. So it is, I think, a 3-way battle there and a 4-way battle just behind them.
2 intense battles, and both of them could end up falling apart at any moment here. 3 minutes on the clock, a total of 2 more laps. Carson Callan had to come down pit road. That's one thing to note as well, right? Drivers have been steadily coming down pit road for the tail of the field, realizing they couldn't make it on the fuel. Curious if these drivers will have to end up doing the same. But we are now officially within that realm, right? It'll be white flag next time by.
I think they will all be good to make it to the end. The only one I might have a concern with is going to be Jake Kasich with how little he fueled the car. Actually, probably both him and Alex Crawford versus Kyle Blevins. So I think that's going to be a huge break. That's also probably why the elbows are so far out for Jake Kasich, because he knows he doesn't have the fuel game to get back up to Kyle Blevins if that's the case.
Tucker off the road at turn 1. Bad news for him. Now there's the look once again. Kyle Blevins, too wide into 130R. He takes for the inside. Jake Kasich still holding this one around the outside. Near contact between the two of them. Crawford's right there, and he wants to fight as well. Double file into the triangle. This time, Blevins is through. Kasich going to hold around the outside. Blevins, we've seen a lot of what he can do on offense. Time to see what he can do on defense. White flag in the air, 1 lap to go.
And there's the look from Kasich to make that return play. Alex Crawford deciding to join him. We're going to see what this looks like when it's the other way around, as we see Greg Beckman going off there in the outside of it. Alex Crawford going to end up beside.
Oh, no!
Huge shake from Jake Kasich.
Kasich with a vicious tank slapper at the exit of turn 1. And that might spell an end to the battle here, as Kyle Blevins opening up a 9/10 of a second gap. Unless Crawford can put together the best lap of the night, it'll be game over.
Yeah, Kyle Blevins paying attention, grabbing that fuel, I think is paying him off for him big time. But that's a slide from Blevins there.
No! Blevins throws it away, and Crawford slips right back through. Fights back on for the lead. Here comes Kasich looking for it into the hairpin.
No dice there for Kasich, but he's going to be right on the tail of Alex Crawford going through up to Spoon Curve turns 13 and 14. And then he'll have a great run down the start-finish stretch. Oh, sorry, excuse me, down the back stretch through 130R to try to make that look up the inside. These guys still scrap it out over these positions in the final corners.
But Kasich with another slip in a Spoon. He's got a long way to run him down, and I don't think he's going to do it. Crawford still pulling away. The draft still hasn't kicked in yet. Just now it starts to kick in, and he's too far back. Alex Crawford will come around into the final couple of corners. And with no competition behind, just has to navigate the Casio Triangle in the last turn clean. And Alex Crawford takes yet another win of his beer league career. It's 23 for Crawford.
You can see the shake there as he moves that wheel. Pretty happy about that one, I think, because of how much he was fighting for the end of that. And then he, like usual, makes friends with the outside of turn number 1.
Kyle Blevins will miss out on his 3rd win of the season. It is the first of the season for Alex Crawford. It's been a couple months since we've last seen him in victory lane, so I'm sure he's going to be real happy with this one, as Fleming and Flams trying to out-drag each other to the line, as handful more battles still yet to come across the stripe, but looking like this will be pretty nondescript. And I think Ryan Verhulst might be running on fumes.
I get the feeling it was either that or a slowdown, but it didn't look like anything that could have caused him a slowdown to begin with. And how much that car is coasting with how fast Evan Campbell was coming up behind him, I would have to agree with you.
Count with a massive dive bomb on Ryan Murphy into the final couple of corners as well. And Abdul Samehal is out of fuel. Tucker will be giving him a push to the line.
Oh, wonderful.
Could have got. Remember, these guys are technically racing for position, right? So Tucker could have easily gone around him and just taken the points, but no, he's gonna. Well, I say that he might go around him at the last second just to steal the points, but he'll at least allow him to finish the race out.
Looks like he's going to push him across the line. Oh, no. Wait.
Yeah, well, he'll get
Unsure.
across the line, but he's going to take the points at least.
Yeah. Yeah. He gets him across the line. Oh.
Yeah.
Matthew Dupuis makes sure that that's as far as he goes.
He was trying to run it down, get the points. Didn't quite work out for him. Kyle Smith will be the last car across, and well, all of that takes us to the end of a wild one here this afternoon. That race kind of got a bit up there when you came down to the tail end of this
absolutely.
one. Well, let's take a rundown of your official post-race results here this afternoon, as it's going to be Alex Coffer taking win number 23 and the first of the season for Coffer. Jake Case comes home number 2 on the afternoon. Kyle Blevins, he's going to be imagining what could have been this afternoon as he will finish his race out in 3rd. Wolf is in 4th, and it's Bueller in 5th. Backer, Augustino, Lee, by Romano. Close out the top 10.
In 11th, it's going to be Scott Fleming. Chris Flanders is 12th. Todd Badol in 13th. Tyler Carlton and Chris Bright round out the top 15. Ben Williams, Corey Barrett, Ryan Verholst, Evan Campbell, and Sebastian Close are your top 20.
Top 30 then on the afternoon. It's Carson Catlin alongside Ryan Murphy. Then it's Tucker, Milhot, Dupuis, and Smith for the top 26. The last cars on the lead lap. Beckman, Clayton, Hall, and Cameron will finish out cars that didn't finish on the lead lap alongside Ronneberg, Gonzalez, Grissy, and Henry Lieberman, the lone driver that did not make the start this afternoon. Boy, what a wild race this one ended up being, and a hard-fought win for several drivers that we'll get a chance to talk to. The top 3 that changed around several times in the closing stages, and we'll look to kick it off first and foremost with Alex Coffer, the driver out of Wasilla, Alaska, coming home number 1 this afternoon. And Alex, it is your 23rd Beer League win this afternoon, and this one coming in very, very surprising fashion. Talk us through your race here this afternoon, because this one, it was a wild one.
Yeah, just kind of hung out through the race, made moves when I needed to, but for the most part, just tried to stay clean. A lot of people had issues with the puddles. I don't know if you guys noticed, but like the puddles came back bigger for the main race, the feature race, than it was in the heat. So no one was kind of anticipating that. And a lot of the apexes that we were running in the sprint race all of a sudden was lava. And so yeah, just kept it clean. And then kind of going into the last part, Belvins and Kasich were there. And because of the same situation, I was like, all right, they ain't going to survive running side by side. Like, it's not going to happen. So I just sit back and wait, make sure I was good on fuel. And to their credit, they made it work. And I was like, crap. And luckily, during one of those battles where Belvins was able to sneak through, I was able to carry out more speed there. And so that was that. And then I was like, all right, just one person to chase. And then Belvins decided to give me the win by dropping a tire and doing a 50-50 slide on that grind rail. So unfortunately didn't get a battle with him for the win, because he's a great racer and I enjoy racing with him. But the battle with him and Kasich was a lot of fun tonight. So all of us had a really good time.
It was a good show here this afternoon. We talk about the Degner 2 being a particular trouble spot for the field here this afternoon. Of course, that corner ended up being what netted you the win when Blevins lost it there on the final lap of the race. At what point did you realize you had it in hand for your first win of the season?
Yeah, I mean, once he spun, I don't know. I just felt like at that point, just hit your marks, and there wasn't really enough time for Kasich to make a challenge. So I felt pretty safe there as long as I didn't make mistakes. So I was just like, all right, don't touch apexes because they will kill you.
One race left to go here this afternoon. Will you be taking yet one more win, or will it at least be another podium in the season finale here?
I'm going to try to make it. I'm a single parent next week, so I'm just going to be busy with life. Wife's out of town for work, so yeah, I'm going to try my best to make it, and if I do, yeah, I'm going to smoke these fools.
Well, we'll wish you the best of luck when we go racing once again. Congratulations on taking home this one, and we'll talk to you again next week. Might be in Fuji.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you soon.
Coffer comes home number 1 this afternoon with win number 23. And it's Jake Casey, the driver that gave it his all. Unfortunately, could not catch Coffer to the final lap because he had a bit of a slip up in the spoon curve. And you're standing by with number 2.
I am indeed, Jake Kasich, a valiant effort to keep P1, and with Kyle Blevins as well as Alex Coffer behind you. Talk me through that mentality, where that defense, how did that all come to be?
Well, Suzuka is such a special track, and it's really a challenging track to kind of defend from because the draft is so strong. So as I saw kind of Blevins creeping up on me, I knew that once he got under second, he was going to get into my draft and he was going to catch me really quick. And at that point, I just started thinking okay, what do I need to do to get defensive? And I realized, if I can keep him on the outside of me into the last turn and the outside of me into the first turn, I can defend him and keep him off. And so that was kind of my thought process, was at all costs, keep that inside line, because from there I can, control the corner much better than I could if I was on the outside.
Gosh, the final lap, I think a bit of both heartbreak and then vindication. I don't know the exact word for it. Final lap brings you home P2. Were you expecting that final lap to play out like that? Were you expecting to be further up or down the podium?
I knew Coffer was going to throw something on the final lap, and I knew Blevins was going to throw something on the final lap. So I kind of figured, hey, if I stay on the podium, I'm going to be happy. Both of them are really great, when it comes to these last lap big moves. And, Coffer just absolutely slammed up the inside when I wasn't ready for it and was able to just hang on the outside and cut me off. And then, Blevins threw me when he spun. I got a little distracted, and that kind of allowed Coffer to break the draft a bit. And so it made it a bit tricky for me to get it back. So, it was a bit disappointing to not get the win, but I'm ultimately happy to be on the podium.
Fantastic stuff. Will we expect to see another masterclass in defense next week? And we'll see you back, maybe hopefully on the top step, or?
Hey, I sure hope so. We'll see how it goes. I've had some good luck in these last couple of races.
We look forward to talking with you again. Rumors are it's Fuji, so hopefully we'll see you back here in just a week's time.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Awesome. And that was Jake Kasich, our number 2 finisher tonight at Suzuka.
Kasich comes home number 2 this afternoon, and now it's what could have been for Kyle Blevins here this afternoon. Kyle, you had the race all but one. You were able to clear Kasich. Kasich going to slip up with Coffer. They're put side by side. You had it one, and then Decker 2, right when we thought you had it, caught you at the worst possible moment. Talk us through that final lap.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was such a tight battle between us for the last 15 minutes. I think when I got around him, I just didn't know what to do. And I made a little mistake. I got so used to just driving behind him. So luckily I was able to, get back going and still get third, but it was pretty fun up till then.
It was a solid race for you here this afternoon, and points-wise, it's been looking relatively solid for you all season long, right? I mean, this was set to be your 3rd win this season. Do you reckon maybe come around to the championship finale coming on up here, you're going to be walking away with some good points here to close out the season?
Yeah, I hope so. I should be able to do the rest of the races. I missed one, so I won't win the championship probably, but I'll try to get a bunch of points for my team.
With
Maybe we can still win.
With the Fuji Autodrome rumored to be next one coming on up here this afternoon, and in fact confirmed it is going to be the Fuji Autodrome with the chicane. That has now just been made official. What's your take on it, right? It's another track that the Super Formulas are very used to racing at, but one that drives nothing even close to what Suzuka offers.
Yeah, it's got that real long straightaway too, so it'll be a lot of people trying to run low wings and nowhere really to pass in the tight sections, especially with that chicane.
Well, we'll hopefully see you up there once again as we go racing one final time in season number 11. Congratulations on taking home the 3rd place finish, and who knows, maybe it'll be 2 steps better next week.
Sir, thank you.
Kyle Blevins comes home number 3 this afternoon, and well, with that, Fen, that is about that's it for the post race here. But goodness, a wild race this afternoon, and it's such a shame, right, for Kyle Blevins. He was doing so well in the closing stages, and well, what are you going to do? Sometimes Suzuka just bites.
Sometimes it just bites you right when you think you've got it squared away, and that's always, I feel like, especially at least for me, it's always right when you try to take a breath is when either the car or the track catches you out, and then you end up falling back like we saw Kyle Blevins. A bit of a heartbreak, but I mean, he was working so hard prior to it. I think he absolutely deserves every point he got this evening. That podium spot still had his name written on it, regardless of which one it was.
Well, we got a lot more coming on up here before we go racing one final time at the Suzuka circuit. When we return to racing action next here on Green Flag TV, it's going to be tomorrow night with the Average Joe Sim Racing League with their season finale, the Homestead Miami Speedway. They will be joined alongside the Highline Diecast Collectible Speed Cup Series at Bristol Motor Speedway for a marathon 300 laps around the last great Coliseum. FTR Events Trophy.ai Endurance Series action returns to France as they'll be racing in Mangacourt on Saturday alongside the Velocity Online Racing IndyCar Series with twin 20-lap features at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway's infield road course. That is followed up that evening by the SCRA Gen 4 Series at Homestead Miami Speedway. Classic IndyCar Series Blazing Pedals action alongside the For the Boys racing that will also make for a triple header on Sunday, and all of this with yet more time still to come here on Green Flag TV. If you want to find out more about who we are and what we can offer you, check us out today at www.greenflagtv.com. Once again, my name is Nolan Rempel. Thank you all so much for joining us alongside Acinni. We'll see you all next week where we see who is the Season 11 champion at the Fuji Speedway.